Exposed. How a black woman's amazing decision canceled a 5B deal with a white billionaire family. In the heart of a struggling Chicago neighborhood, Jamie Ellis stood behind the counter of her beloved bakery, the rich aroma of freshly baked goods wrapping around her like a comforting hug. Her 10-year-old son, Malik, played at a nearby table, his laughter echoing off the walls plastered with photos of smiling customers. Jamie's humble shop wasn't just about pastries. It was a refuge, a beacon of hope shining amidst the concrete and chaos. But the stakes were rising. Rumors of a $5 billion investment that could change everything were swirling, and with it, the threat of losing her community loomed large. As Jamie whipped cream for her famous strawberry shortcake, she caught sight of her neighbor, Mr. Thompson, an elderly veteran who always had a kind word for her. His weathered face betrayed a spirit that had seen better days, and Jamie felt a tight knot in her chest. Would his home be ripped away by the hands of those looking to capitalize on their neighborhood? The sweet smell of pastries turned bitter in her mind. Every bite held both potential and peril. That afternoon, a strikingly polished couple approached her. They used affluence and confidence. It was clear they were here for more than just pastries. Their pitch dazzled her, a promise of transformation, jobs, and prosperity, a new life for her and Malik. She envisioned a larger bakery filled with laughter, kids running in and out, the sweet tunes of life and love echoing through the air. But then reality crashed in. For every opportunity presented, there were families like Mr. Thompson's whose lives could be uprooted. It weighed heavily on her heart. As darkness fell, Jamie stood by her window, watching the shadows lengthen over the street. She saw neighbors chatting, sharing groceries, and laughing together. This was her home. And yet, the thought of financial security pulled at her like an invisible string. Could she choose between her ambition and her community? The town hall meeting announcement snapped her back to urgency. She was often just a humble baker. Now she felt a calling to voice the fears and dreams of those around her. She gathered her notes and encouragement from Malik, who believed in her strength even when she doubted. The night of the meeting, her heart raced as she faced the crowd, trembling fingers gripping her notes. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Jamie spoke, her voice gathered strength, rising above the murmurs of uncertainty. This investment might offer us a chance. She paused, looking around at the faces of her neighbors, and shifted gears. But it comes at a cost: our homes, our stories, our community. Is that worth it? Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some were nodding in agreement, while others shifted uncomfortably on their feet. The air thickened with tension. Eyes locked on her, the powerful family seated at the front exchanged pointed looks. As she detailed how displacement shattered not only lives but history, a storm brewed in the room. Jamie could feel the power of her words igniting something in everyone present, a deep yearning for justice and solidarity against the dark tide of gentrification. But just as she reached her crescendo, one of the billionaires leaned forward, their voice cold and commanding. We can offer you all prosperity, or you can stand with them in your old, crumbling ruins. The ultimatum hung in the air like thunder, and it left Jamie breathless. In that charged room, as the murmurs rose, Jamie's decision loomed larger than life. The storm around her felt overwhelming, and in an instant, she had to ask herself, would her dream of financial stability come at the price of those she loved? The weight of that choice pressed down on her heart, leaving her teetering on the edge of resolve, ready to dive into an unknown future. Jamie felt each heartbeat thump in her chest, a relentless reminder of the choice she faced. The room fell into a tense silence, broken only by the stuttering breath of the crowd. She could see Mr. Thompson's eyes pleading with her from the back. He knew the weight of this moment as well as she did. Tears glistened in his gaze, reflecting a lifetime of struggles and memories woven through their neighborhood. We deserve better than this, Jamie finally shouted, her voice fierce and determined. This is not just about money. This is about who we are. The crowd erupted into applause, a collective sound of hope and defiance that echoed against the walls. They were feeling what she was feeling, their spirits interlinked in that moment. But the billionaires, visibly annoyed, huddled together, whispering among themselves with faux concern etched on their faces. The smug confidence shifted, leaving a sense of desperation behind. Jamie locked her eyes on them, channeling every ounce of her courage. She wasn't going to back down. You think you can just ride in here with foreign dollars, take our heritage, and call it progress? Jamie declared, her voice steady and unwavering. You don't know the names of the families who built this community, who stand together in tough times. More heads nodded, and a murmur of agreement rumbled through the crowd. The tension hung thicker than a Chicago winter, but Jamie felt a growing strength around her neighbors' clasping hands, mothers hugging children close, an unyielding bond of shared history and future. It was a testament to their resilience. Just then, someone shouted, "We stand with you, Jamie." The billionaire's expressions tightened. They hadn't anticipated this wave of unity. Jamie's heart surged. She needed to seize this moment. We can negotiate a deal that includes us. A deal that makes room for everyone. But we can't sell out our souls. The roar from the audience shook the very foundation of the hall. Then, as the energy soared, Malik, her spirited 10-year-old, stood up from the table. His small hands clenched into fists, mirroring the determination that coursed through her veins. "Mom, we can do this. I believe in you." His innocent faith sent warmth through her, pushing her to take one decisive step forward. With courage amplifying each word, she added, "Let us refuse this offer. Instead, let us build something together, something that honors our neighborhoods." She resolved then to lead not just for herself or Malik, but for everyone who had ever had to defend their space against outside interests. As the echoes of her declaration faded, Jamie caught sight of the billionaires recoiling, their polished composure shattered by the force of community spirit. They had pushed too far, and the tide was turning. But just as she began to relish the victory of her words, a chilling voice cut through the room again, sharper than before. "You think this is over? You underestimate what we can do." The threat hung ominously in the air, swallowing the applause into a fearful silence. A knot twisted in Jamie's stomach. She hadn't fully realized what they were willing to unleash upon her community. The fight had just begun, and once again, uncertainty crept in. Would standing firm against the billionaires lead to a real victory? Or would it bring consequences she couldn't foresee? The stakes had officially been raised, and she now realized the extent of the battle ahead. Mom Malik's innocent voice called out again, breaking the tension. "What is going to happen to us now?" Jamie looked to her son, taking a deep breath. She needed to reassure him, but even she wasn't sure. A wave of determination washed over her as she prepared to face whatever lay ahead. As the crowd began dispersing, she felt the weight of a million eyes watching, waiting for her next words. How could she lift their spirits when the storm was just beginning? In that moment, she realized the fight was more than just for survival. It would become a battle for hope, a struggle she was prepared to lead. But would the price be heavier than she could bear? The next chapter of this saga was about to unfold. Jamie felt the weight of everyone's gaze as the crowd dispersed. Each step she took was measured, a blend of fear and determination. Her mind raced with Malik's question echoing in her ears. What indeed would happen next? The atmosphere felt thick, almost suffocating. She could sense the vulnerability of her neighbors who all stood silently, some whispering among themselves. Fear flickered across faces, eyes darting to the billionaires who remained, plotting perhaps their revenge. "Let us head home." Malik tugged at her sleeve, his grip strong and reassuring despite his small stature. Jamie knelt to his level, forcing a smile, even as her stomach churned. "Remember what I said," she whispered. "We're going to be okay. We'll fight for what's ours." But deep down, she wasn't so sure. As they walked through the dense crowd, fingers brushing against familiar hands, it struck her how many lives were intertwined with hers. This was not just her fight, it was their fight. Jamie felt the pulse of something larger than herself, a collective spirit urging her on, lifting her even as uncertainty loomed. Once home, she sank into the worn couch, its fabric cool against her skin. Malik settled beside her, his small frame comfortingly warm. "Mom, why are you scared?" His innocent question hit her like a punch. She wanted to shield him from fear, to tell him everything would be all right. I'm not scared, bud. I just want to make sure we do this right, she replied, her voice quavering slightly. But Malik tilted his head, as if he understood more than she gave him credit for. You're brave, Mom. You stood up to them. I'm trying, she admitted, hugging him tighter. It was that moment of connection that fueled her resolve. If she could create a spark of hope with just a few words, what could they achieve together? Jamie grabbed her phone, scrolling through notifications, the noise from social media buzzing in her ears. Some supportive comments, but many were filled with doubt. They win, she said out loud, taking a deep breath as Malik watched her with wide eyes. Mom, why don't you ask Mr. Thompson for help? He knows everyone and everyone respects him, Malik suggested, brow furrowed in thought. It was a simple yet profound idea. Mr. Thompson was a pillar in the community, known for bringing people together. If anyone could rally the neighborhood and create a united front, it was him. Great thinking, sweetheart, she beamed at him, filled with renewed hope. They would need to bring in everyone: teachers, shop owners, mothers, fathers, even their kids. They could start something. A movement, a rally, a town hall meeting. She felt the gears in her mind shifting, a plan coming together. The next day, Jamie found herself standing in front of a modest group outside Mr. Thompson's house. There was an unsteady murmur at first, but when she spoke, her heart surged with every nod and encouraging glance she received. If we stand together, they can't silence us, she said, her voice catching just a bit at the end. As Mr. Thompson emerged, his gravelly voice washed over them, firm and steady. I've seen resilience here before. Together, we reclaim our vision for this community. Thrumming energy filled the air. She began to understand what Malik meant about bravery. They would be the storm that brought change, not just a ripple of defiance. But in the back of her mind lurked the ominous threat from the meeting. The billionaires would retaliate. They were powerful and had resources. Would Jamie's bravery along with that of the community be enough? Just then, Jamie caught sight of a journalist across the street, camera prepped and poised. Was it time to take the fight public? She hadn't considered that, but maybe the world needed to see this struggle, a community fighting for its identity, its future. The stakes had risen higher than she imagined. The battle lines were drawn, and Jamie could sense she was about to step into a fight that transformed everything. Would this act of defiance bring strength or expose them to new vulnerabilities? The answer seemed closer than ever. The journalist was crouched low, capturing the essence of every word Jamie spoke. She could feel the weight of the moment. Every syllable could ignite hope or fuel the fears that had spread like wildfire. The air hummed with anticipation as she glanced over the faces in the crowd. It was a mix of excitement, desperation, and determination. Together we fought to bring change, she encouraged, her palms pressed against the rough wooden railing of Mr. Thompson's porch. And if we stand strong, they'll see that we're not backing down. The murmur of agreement rippled among the crowd, a tidal wave of rising voices, each willing to take a stand alongside her. But as she spoke, Jamie's heart raced at the thought of potential backlash. The billionaires wouldn't just take their defeat lying down. The tension had shifted from merely collective hope to an imminent confrontation. Her thoughts were a chaotic swirl, battling optimism against stark reality. She felt each breath become harder to take, the weight of their struggle turning heavy in her chest. Mr. Thompson stepped closer, nodding gravely. We've faced giants before, and we've always risen, hasn't he it? There was fire in his words, a flicker of the same spirit that had ignited Jamie earlier. But bravery isn't just about standing up. It's about knocking down barriers too. As the crowd cheered, Jamie spotted Malik standing against the fence line, his little fingers gripping tightly. His gaze was unwavering, brimming with pride. For a fleeting moment, her doubts faded away, eclipsed by the fierce loyalty she saw in his eyes. She couldn't allow fear to steal this moment from him. She had to shield him from the looming storm, but the persistent nagging sensation in the pit of her stomach warned her not to overlook anything. With every step forward, she sensed the potential for trouble. As she turned to the journalist, the realization washed over her: this story could go national, draw in supporters, but it could also bring bigger threats. We need to tell everyone, she said to the crowd, gauging their reactions. We need this to become more than just our neighborhood. Let us share our dreams. Let them know we exist, that we're together in this fight." The excitement sparked in the air, and Jamie felt her pulse race again with confidence. Just then, as if scripted, a black SUV pulled up, its window lowered to reveal a familiar face. It was Lucas, one of the billionaires they had stood against. The cool arrogance on his face made Jamie's heart sink like a stone. "Nice rally you have here," he taunted, lips curling into a smirk. "But you really think this will change anything?" His voice dripped with mockery, echoing the doubts that had plagued Jamie all night. "This isn't just a fight over land. It's a fight against power, and you're outmatched." Gasps rippled through the crowd, and Jamie's skin prickled. Those words could easily twist the unity she had fostered. She stepped forward, squaring her shoulders. "Nothing will change if we stay silent, Lucas. You may have money, but we have heart." "Heart?" he challenged, leaning closer. "That's cute." Jamie could see the disdain narrowing his eyes, and suddenly, that doubt crept back in, wrapping around her like a dark cloud. Was she risking everything? The murmurs returned to hush, a ripple of apprehension coursing through the gathering, and she knew she had to act. "This is our home, and we will not let you intimidate us anymore." As the crowd surged forward, Jamie stood tall, her own heart thundering in rhythm with the voices around her. The energy was palpable, but in the back of her mind lingered the question, had she just invited a greater storm upon them with her defiance? With Lucas watching, the true battle had begun, and she felt vulnerable, yet determined. What would happen when the fight became personal? When the stakes were no longer abstract, but directly impacting their lives? Jamie's heart hammered in her chest as she faced Lucas. The tension felt thick, like a heavy fog settling over the rally. She could see faces all around her shift from determination to uncertainty. The fiery spirit that had once ignited the crowd dimmed slightly, held back by fear. She could practically feel the doubt creeping in, whispering that they were simply outgunned, but she couldn't allow that to happen. Not now. Not when their dreams hung in the balance. Jamie took a deep breath, forcing herself to stand firm. "We're not afraid of you," she shouted, channeling all her energy into those words. "You might have the money and power, but we have something you can't buy. Our lives, our homes, and our community." The ripple of encouragement returned, each voice lifting her spirits higher. A neighbor shouted out, "Stand your ground," and the crowd began to chant her name. Jamie felt the electric energy pulse through her, a united front rising from the ashes of doubt. Together, they were fierce. Lucas, however, appeared unfazed. He leaned back in his seat with a casual arrogance that did nothing to shield her from the storm brewing within her. "This is cute. Really," he sneered, completely dismissing their collective efforts. The disdain in his voice was palpable, but just as the shouts grew in number, a low hum of worry hovered beneath the surface. Would their defiance spark something worse? The hard reality lingered in Jamie's mind. Lucas had influence, connections that stretched into shadows unseen. And it wasn't just about the fight for their land. This was about their lives. Suddenly, a thunderous sound echoed from behind the gathering. Jamie turned to see a pair of black SUVs rolling in, their engines roaring like angry beasts. Fear exploded inside her as the realization hit. Lucas wasn't just a player in this game. He was all in. "What's that?" someone shouted, pointing. Malik's little hand reached for hers, shaking slightly. The innocence in his eyes mixed with panic tugged at Jamie's heart, and she quickly knelt to comfort him. "Stay close," she whispered, trying to shield him not only from the vehicles but the storm of emotions rising inside her. But as she stood back up, something happened. A wave of raw unity surged through the crowd. They weren't just standing there, they were ready to fight. Their eyes sparked with renewed determination. Jamie felt a deep pang of pride swell within her. She turned back to Lucas, her voice steady, filled with conviction. "We will not be intimidated. We will fight for our community, for our future." The crowd roared in response, filling the air with a sound that could challenge the very earth beneath their feet. The gust of defiance pushed back against the approaching threats, and Jamie felt invincible for a moment. Then, reality crashed back in, stifling that exhilaration. This was about more than words now. "Lucas, you can't silence us. Every obstacle you throw our way makes us stronger." she declared, her own voice echoing with passion, spilling over the edge of fear. But as Lucas's eyes turned cold, and the SUVs continued to roll forward, Jamie couldn't shake the feeling that the path ahead was fraught with danger. What would happen when they faced the ultimate test? When the fight for their home would pit them directly against the power that sought to crush them? The SUVs roared to a stop, their black, polished exteriors gleaming under the harsh afternoon sun. The crowd, a mixture of fierce determination and raw anxiety, turned their collective attention to the vehicles as the doors swung open. Jamie's heart raced. This was at the moment of reckoning. Out stepped a group of men in tailored suits, the kind that spoke volumes of power and privilege. Each stride they took radiated a sense of authority, as if they owned the very ground beneath them. Jamie's instinct told her they were here to deliver a message, but what kind? Lucas stood, brushing off imaginary dust from his jacket, a smirk tugging at the corners of his mouth. "This spectacle is entertaining," he called out, his voice dripping with condescension. "But what you fail to realize is, this isn't a game. You're messing with forces you can't even begin to comprehend." Fear mingled with anger in Jamie's chest. She was no stranger to intimidation, yet the stakes were higher now. She reached for Malik's small hand, squeezing it tightly. He was here, witnessing this fight unfold, and she couldn't allow him to see her falter. The crowd's tension thickened like a tightening noose. Someone shouted, "What do they want?" And a muffled murmur spread, echoing the sentiment. Jamie knew Lucas's crew wasn't just here to play. They were here to threaten, to bully, and perhaps to crush any flickering hope the community had. With a determined breath, Jamie stepped forward, placing herself between the crowd and the suits. "What is your message?" she demanded, the resolve in her voice louder than her trembling heart might suggest. Lucas's smirk widened, a cruel satisfaction flashing in his eyes. "It's simple, really. You either accept the deal we're offering or face the consequences. I guarantee you this will not end well." As whispers spread, Jamie sensed the wavering resolve in her neighbors. This wasn't merely about land anymore. It was their right to exist and thrive. "Consequences?" she echoed, pushing back against the wall of fear that threatened to close in. "You think that scares us?" Malik curled even closer to her side, his little face a mask of understanding that belied his age. But Jamie saw his spark of courage in the face of adversity. The community felt Malik's strength, too, and she could see their fear slowly morphing into something fiercer defiance. "Every single person here knows what's at stake," a woman shouted from the back of the crowd, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "We will not bow to you." With that, brave voices joined in, igniting a chorus of resistance. There was a rhythm now, a pulse that moved through them, swelling as they began to chant. The energy in the air crackled. Jamie felt it resonate deep within her bones. They were standing tall, but still, that nagging doubt lingered. Lucas and his goons wouldn't back down easily. She could almost hear the gears turning in his mind, the plot thickening. As the chant grew louder, Jamie turned her gaze back to Lucas. "You may have wealth, but we have unity. We have love for our community." Lucas's expression hardened, his eyes narrowing as he contemplated the unexpected pushback. And in that charged silence, where every heart beat like thunder, Jamie pondered, what would be the price of their fight? Were they truly ready for the storm that was about to lash out? What she didn't expect was for a shadow to move in the crowd, someone she never thought would show up. But was this person a friend or a foe? A murmur rippled through the crowd as a figure pushed their way forward. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows, Jamie squinted, her heart pounding harder. Could it really be? The familiar silhouette began to take shape, and with each step, Jamie's mind raced. Was it really Dina, her childhood friend, who'd left town years ago, chasing dreams that seemed light years away from this fight? Dina? The word came out almost as a whisper, laced with disbelief. But before Jamie could process her feelings, Dina was upon her. There was no time for pleasantries. "Jamie, I heard what was happening. I had to come." Dina's voice was a blend of urgency and determination, but Jamie noticed a flicker of fear in her eyes. Lucas's smirk faltered momentarily, but he quickly masked it with contempt. "Oh look, a homecoming party for the runaway. You really think your presence can change anything?" He chuckled, but it was clear he was intrigued. Your arrogance is astounding, Lucas. Dina shot back, stepping closer to Jamie. You really don't get it, do you? This isn't just about land. It's about lives. It's about fighting back against your kind of greed. The crowd's energy shifted. Jamie saw hope reflected in their faces, fanned by Dina's fire. They were tired of being pushed around, tired of feeling small against mighty corporations that saw them as nothing more than obstacles to be bulldozed. Wait. A voice from the back of the crowd cut through the growing energy. It was Mr. Thompson, an elder in the community. Dina, are you really thinking of standing with us? Dina stood taller, her head held high. Yes, Mr. Thompson. I never forgot where I came from or what this place means. I'm here to fight with you. A ripple of encouragement surged through the crowd. Jamie's heart swelled with pride and a flicker of gratitude. Dina's presence felt like a bolt of electricity, charging up the resistance forming before her. But then Lucas stepped forward, eyes glinting with menace. TSK, you really should know better than to get involved in matters beyond your comprehension. You think you can intimidate us into submission? We're stronger together. Jamie replied, no longer just standing firm, but pushing against the tide of fear. And what will it cost you? Lucas replied smoothly. What will you sacrifice? A sudden hush fell over the crowd. Jamie's breath hitched. What indeed would they have to lose? Everything, perhaps. But just as quickly as doubt crept in, a fierce resolve pushed back against it. We are not backing down, she shouted, gripping Malik's hand tighter. He needed to feel her strength. They all did. Your threats will not scare us, Dina added, her voice thick with emotion. The crowd erupted again, chants filling the air with renewed vigor. They started clapping and stomping as they joined the words, creating a rhythm that matched the heartbeat of their shared determination. But within the rattle of shouts and the swell of drums like unity, Jamie glanced around, looking for Lucas. He had fallen silent. She caught his eye, and for a moment, it felt like they were locked in a duel of wills. What was brewing behind that facade of confidence? Then it hit her. Was he confident? Or was he just cunning? Jamie knew one thing. While this standoff felt monumental, it was merely the beginning. Lucas wouldn't walk away quietly. He never did. Just as she prepared to rally the crowd again, her eyes caught the flicker of someone else hiding in the back, someone she recognized, but had never expected to see. Wait, Jamie whispered, disbelief washing over her. What are you doing here? The figure stepped forward, and suddenly, everything sharpened into focus. The stakes had just been raised. The figure revealed itself, stepping out from the shadows of the crowd. Jamie's pulse quickened as she took in the familiar features. It was Angela, her former neighbor and someone who had faced Lucas many times before. Angela had always been outspoken, the kind of person who fought with every ounce of her being for what was right. Angela? Jamie breathed out, half in disbelief, half in relief. Angela's brow was furrowed with intensity. I heard about the protest. I couldn't just sit back and do nothing. Lucas watched, irritation flickering across his face as the crowd's morale surged once again. It was undeniable. Angela's presence resonated deeply with the people. She stepped further into the light, her voice strong and unwavering. This isn't just a fight for the land or money. It's a fight for our dignity, our home, and our future. We're not just a statistic on their spreadsheets. The crowd erupted into applause, voices rising in a chorus of agreement. Jamie could feel the momentum shifting, a wave building that was ready to crash down on Lucas and his kind. She locked eyes with Malik, who grinned back at her, each of them sharing the spark of hope igniting in the air. What do you expect to achieve? Do you honestly think this will change anything? Lucas scoffed, crossing his arms defensively. But the chanting continued, growing louder and more passionate, drowning out Lucas's undercurrent of arrogance. We will be heard. We will not be silenced. Angela turned to face him, her stance unwavering. You may have people who follow you out of fear, Lucas, but we have something you can't buy: our hearts, our unity, and our stories. You underestimate this community, and that's where you'll lose. That stung. Jamie could see it. She could feel the crowd coiling tighter around the conviction of their power. Everything they'd been through together, the late-night meetings at the diner, the rallies, the tears shed over growing bills, and shrinking futures built a collective strength they could no longer ignore. Yet at that moment, as passions flared, Jamie couldn't shake the gnawing fear that crept into her mind. Would it really be enough? What if their storm only created more chaos? As if reading her thoughts, Dina stepped closer, placing her hand on Jamie's arm. Every fight matters, Jamie. Even if we lose, standing up means we have not lost our voice. Caught in Dina's fierce gaze, Jamie inhaled deeply. Her heart raced. This was about more than just the land. It was about family, about her childhood home full of laughter and memories. Lucas shifted, leaning in towards the crowd. You think this is some storybook battle? You're all stupid to think you can control what happens next. The crowd murmured, tension mounting around them. Jamie searched their faces, looking for courage, looking for answers. Was Lucas right? What if their little rebellion fizzled into nothing? But then she spotted Angela again, unwavering, her eyes fierce and determined. Jamie felt the warmth swell in her chest, a spark igniting her spirit. Listen, Jamie shouted, cutting through the uncertain air. This isn't just about today. It's about setting an example for anyone who thinks they can bully us into the ground. We won't let fear win. With that, an eruption of cheers rang through the crowd. They felt alive, fueled by the resurgence of unity, ready for battle, prepared to throw down against an empire built on greed. But the surprise wasn't over. Just as Jamie thought it was all coming together, a rumble of uncertainty crackled through the air. A figure she never thought would come back now stood at the edge of the crowd, holding a folder of documents that could change everything once more. Jamie, I need to talk to you, the newcomer said, their voice slicing through the tumult. What did they bring that could alter the stakes yet again? The air thickened with anticipation, and Jamie felt both dread and intrigue. Would this be the breakthrough they needed, or another reason to fear? The evening wasn't over yet. As she stepped closer, the figure's silhouette became clearer. Jamie's heart pounded in her chest. It was Kendra, her old friend from the city, someone she'd thought was lost to the corporate grind. Kendra held the folder tightly, her face a mix of urgency and determination. Jamie, please. It's important, she said again, her voice barely rising above the roars of the crowd. What is it? Jamie managed to shout back, desperate to hear. Kendra took a deep breath, her gaze flicking between Jamie and the crowd. I found something about Lucas. It could change everything. The raucous noise dimmed slightly as people strained to hear. Jamie felt the tension in Kendra's body, a weight of anticipation that neither could shake. She subtly motioned for Kendra to come forward, curiosity tethering her feet. What did you find? Kendra opened the folder, her fingers trembling just slightly. Documents. Inside information. Contracts that link Lucas to shady dealings, money laundering, falsified permits. They're trying to push this land deal through at any cost. A stunned silence spread over the gathering, replaced by whispers and incredulous gasps. Jamie felt her stomach twist. What do you mean? Are you sure? I spent weeks digging. I can't believe I actually found this, Kendra said, clearly energized by the prospect, her voice rising again as she continued. This is bigger than just land. It's criminal. If we expose this, it could stop everything. Hope flickered back to life in Jamie's chest, a tangible force that mixed with her fear. How can we expose it? We can't let Lucas know we have this. Kendra closed the folder, holding it like a fragile secret. We need to act fast. We can't go to the authorities. They're in his pocket. But if we get the community on board, share this information, leverage our voices, we could turn the tide. Angela stepped closer, having overheard the conversation. What is going on? She asked, her brow knitted with curiosity. Kendra explained, her eyes never leaving Jamie's. If we can rally everyone around this news, Lucas will be in serious trouble. It'll take more than his bravado to fight back against real evidence. The crowd buzzed with anticipation, fingers tapping against arms as they passed the folder back and forth, whispers of growing determination coursing through them. Jamie felt a mix of exhilaration and nerves. This wasn't just a chance to stop Lucas. It could spark something far larger than all of them. This was a call to expose the truth, to fight against the very system that had aimed to crush them. Let us show them we're not afraid. Jamie shouted over the murmurs, and the crowd erupted in agreement once again. She caught Malik's eye, seeing his fierce resolve mirrored in her own. But just as the air filled with renewed passion, Lucas scoffed again, his voice dripping with disdain. You think some documents are going to change anything? You're grasping at straws. The energy dimmed for a brief moment, but Jamie's heart raced. Change isn't about waiting for the perfect moment. It's about stepping up when it matters most. A ripple of applause rejoined the thrumming energy of the crowd. But as they ignited with determination, Jamie felt a gnawing concern. Could they truly manage this? Could they handle Lucas and what he still had in store for them? The stakes had escalated, and Jamie knew they were in a dangerous game. With Kendra's bombshell revelation, this fight was now more than just about the land. It was about truth, justice, and the strength of a community that wouldn't back down. However, in the midst of the hopeful rallying cries, Jamie caught a glimpse of Lucas. He seemed unfazed, almost amused, as if he was anticipating their every move. "What is your next play, Jamie?" Malik whispered as he leaned in closer. But before she could answer, another noise interrupted them, louder, creeping towards the crowd, something that felt ominous and foreboding what was coming next. And could they truly prepare for it? The tension was palpable as the sound grew nearer. Jamie's heart raced while everyone squinted into the distance, anticipation hanging thick in the air. The crowd's excitement morphed into dread with each rumble. Jamie couldn't shake the feeling that this was at the moment of truth that would determine their fate. Suddenly, the scene exploded into chaos. A fleet of law enforcement vehicles pulled up, sirens blaring, lights flashing like a storm on the horizon. The crowd gasped, confusion rippling through them like electricity. Jamie's stomach dropped. Were they here to intimidate, to dismantle their fight? Lucas smirked, a predator enjoying the moment, as uniformed officers began to file out. "Didn't I warn you? You can't fight with forces you don't understand," he taunted, his voice smooth, masking the darkness beneath. "Stand together," Jamie shouted, rallying her neighbors through the fear surging around them. "They might have the badge, but we have the heart. We have the truth." The crowd clutched hands, their bond tightening like an unbreakable chain. "Everyone listen," Kendra shouted, trying to be heard above the sirens. "Stay calm. This isn't the end. Together, we can show them that we won't back down." The officers advanced, their expressions unreadable, but Jamie could see some hesitance. They were here, no doubt, on Lucas's orders. But Jamie also sensed a flicker of curiosity among them, a fire of compassion igniting in some eyes. If only they could see the strength of this community. "Where are the permits for this protest?" One officer barked, stepping forward. The air felt electric, sparking with tension. "Pack it up before we move in." "Wait," Jamie shouted, stepping into the open and raising her hands, her palms facing the officers, her heart pounding as she felt all eyes upon her. "Before you take action, you should know what this is truly about. We're not just fighting for land. This is about lives, about unity and resilience." The officers paused, their expressions shifting. Jamie could feel the ground beneath her, a moment of connection, however brief. "You think we're just a bunch of dreamers? This community built itself piece by piece, and we're here to stand up against those who threaten our way of life." Several officers exchanged glances. Their resolve seemed to waver just slightly, but the moment vanished quickly. The officer in front stepped forward, authority firm once more. "This is a public disturbance. You need to leave." But before Jamie could respond, Malik slipped out from her grasp, his small figure breaking through the crowd. "Wait, officer." He spoke with such fierce courage, surprising everyone, even Jamie. "You're supposed to protect our town. Don't you see that we're just trying to keep our homes?" The officers looked taken aback, exchanging incredulous glances. Jamie felt tears prick her eyes as Malik's innocent bravery ignited the atmosphere. "This is our family. Would you let someone take your home?" His little voice echoed through the crowd, cutting to their core. The lead officer hesitated. Jamie watched as the unease spread among the ranks. The souls of the community faced unafraid, an unexpected force rising from within. Leaders in their own right, they were resolute and ready to fight for what they loved. Some officers lowered their gaze, visibly moved. Managerial authority crumbled in the presence of raw emotion. A ripple of doubt passed through, and with it, an unspoken understanding began to dawn. "Your eyes are lying to you." Lucas spat, trying to reclaim his grasp on the narrative. The crowd made no move to shrink back. Rather, they stood solid and defiant, clinging to hope and unity, a living wall against fear. The officer's voice wavered, words taught with newfound compassion. You all need to disperse, but we will be watching. It wasn't a complete endorsement, but it was a crack in the facade. The sirens fell silent, and the energy around them shifted. Let us use this moment. Kendra called, her voice electric. This community is proof. Let us gather evidence, gather strength, and let us fight for what is right. As the officers dispersed reluctantly, the crowd erupted in celebration, a thunderous sound that sent waves through the very streets. Their fight was far from over, but they had made a mark. Jamie felt the weight of 1,000 eyes lifted. Within that moment, the future felt bright, teeming with possibility. Jamie, Malik pulled on her sleeve, the glow of victory radiating from him. We did it. We stood up to them. Jamie knelt down, enveloping him in a hug, her heart swelling with pride. Yes, my love, we absolutely did, she whispered. Then, as she stood, her resolve deepened. This is just the beginning. They were a community, no longer fragmented. They were bound together by resilience, fighting back against a tide of greed, and she needed to harness it. As Jamie looked around at her neighbors, a new determination blossomed. They would not just exist, they would thrive. By standing together, they had forged an unbreakable foundation. United, they were a force no adversary could easily conquer. Every heart across that crowd beat with the same rhythm. They were not just fighting for land, they were fighting for each other, igniting hope in each other as dreams. As another burst of laughter erupted from Malik, Jamie felt tears of joy slip down her cheeks. They had fought for something greater than themselves, and together, they would continue to lead this charge for transformation. The community is here, and we will not back down. Jamie roared, the declaration ringing in her ears like a refrain, but it wasn't just a battle for land, nor just against Lucas. It was a fight for identity, connection, and a shared future worth fighting for. Now, the stage was set. The real transformation lay ahead. If you felt the weight of this journey, you need to subscribe now. Don't let this moment slip away. Join this community of resilience and bravery. Smash that like button to show you're with us. Let us feed the algorithm and let our voices be heard. Comment below with your thoughts and feelings about this incredible transformation we witnessed. And for the love of all that is true, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this fight for what is right. Don't wait, not even one more second. The power of unity is calling.